welcome to the League One Lowdown. This is a bonus episode. We are ranking every manager in League One ahead of the new season. Now everybody has one. We've had a couple new managers into the league as of late, but we have our full complement ahead of the season, and we're going to go through and rank them all. I'm sure we'll upset a few people along the way, but we're going to give it our best go. Myself, Jamie Johnson, and there are three of us here today. Sam first. How are you, Sam?
All good, thank you, my friend. All good. Looking forward to hopefully pleasing everyone, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be a few comments that are pretty annoyed.
I'm sure. And Seb as well. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. I enjoyed the mini heat wave we had over the weekend. So, yeah, very good, thank you.
Good stuff. And Callum not with us, but Callum will be back for the transfer update, our regular scheduling, if you like, for the week. On Wednesday, Thursday, reviewing and updating on all the transfers of the week. But we're going to head straight in, not waste any time, because there's obviously a lot to talk about, going through all 24 of the managers. We're going to do it alphabetically, I guess, to sort of mix the order around a little bit, which therefore starts with Alex Revell of Stevenage. Sam, where have you ranked him out of the 24?
So I found ranking from 7 probably to 16 extremely difficult. So I roughly think all these managers are probably the same ability, but I've stuck Alex Revell in 10th. I think he did an excellent job with Stevenage last season, personally. Seb seems really surprised with that one.
I
thought he did a really good job with Stevenage, taking over from Steve Evans in terms of, I know they dropped off towards the end of the Steve Evans season, but there is a small change in philosophy, it looks like, this summer as well. And they still really overachieve with a budget and reputation that club has. So I think Alex Revell, while he really struggled in his first attempt at Stevenage, seems to be more mature, more understanding. And he obviously went away from his philosophy. He wants to play a different brand of football. It didn't work. And he went back, right, we'll just play the way that these players suit. And I think that takes some courage from managers, especially nowadays, to do that. So I think 10th place, like I say, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, down to 16th, I think were really tight, but he ended up in 10th.
I think your sort of summary that sort of middle of the table batch is difficult to rank is sort of rings true. And I think that's a theme we'll sort of come back to as we go through. And I do just about fall in that bracket. And it looks like a massive difference between 10th and where I've put Alex Revell, which is 16th. But I think following on from what you said was that isn't as big a gap as perhaps it looked. He's obviously a decent manager, had a very good season at last, and the real test for him is what comes next season in terms of implementing his philosophy or implementing it as much as he can. Seb, you came with a very bemused look when Sam put Alex Revell 10th, so I'm wondering to see where you put him.
Yeah, I don't know if this is me just being slightly harsh, and not just for this one, but for the all the managers. I guess I'm known for my rankings and my predictions being a little bit left field, but I'm just not sold on Alex Revell, really. I think, I put him 21st. I put him 21st, not to beat around the bush. I'm just not sold on him. I think, I guess, when he came in after the Steve Evans era, Steve Evans obviously overachieved and they've not quite reached the heights. That's obviously not all down to Revell, but I'm just not sold in terms of how good of a manager he is. I guess Stevenage, there's not really that much expectation there. So he's not as though he's exceeded expectation or, really sort of underperformed. He just got results and got good results and got bad results. He's not done anything spectacular. And I'm just really not sold on him as a manager from my point of view.
That's interesting. I'm wondering to see sort of who you put above him. It's very interesting, sort of going to come through as we go along. But as I say, in alphabetical order, that brings us next to Brian Barry Murphy, obviously of Cardiff, new manager, had just the one job in management before you'd call it, with Rochdale, got relegated with them, and he's had since some coaching stints at Manchester City and at Leicester. So he has that coaching calibre. But for me, his managerial calibre isn't there, and it becomes a difficult sort of ranking these new managers who haven't done it yet, and that will be something I come back to quite a lot in terms of a lot of the managers I put down the bottom are because they haven't done it yet or they've only done it in limited bursts. It's hard to rank them above managers that have been there and done it. So I have put Brian Barry Murphy for that reason and for one I get the sense of from his time at Rochdale. I've put him rock bottom in 24th. Sam, where have you put him?
Exactly the same. Bottom. I listened to your transfer update last week. I remember you talking about Barry Murphy with the Rochdale fans that you spoke of. So I've kind of gone off their opinion of him. He may well be a very good coach, but it's a very different being a coach to a number one. As there was a person at Forest Green, I can't remember his name, Horseman, I think it was David Horseman. He went in from Southampton with this glowing reputation to Forest Green, and it went horribly wrong. So you can be a very good coach, but you might not be necessarily a good number one. So, and that potentially Brian Barry Murphy falls into that category, which is why I've put him bottom.
Yeah, myself and Seb talked about him on the transfer update just gone. You'll be able to find that on YouTube, whatever podcast platform you are on. Seb, are you following in line with us, putting him 24th?
I am indeed. Yeah, that makes it a hat trick of Brian Barry Murphy at the bottom. I'm just not sold on him, given as well his only managerial experience, as you mentioned, was with Rochdale, sort of further down the football pyramid in England. Yes, he's had coaching spells, but as a recurring theme you will see with some of my answers, I think not all great coaches make great managers. So yeah, for that reason, I have put him bottom. Yeah, I don't think he's the right fit for Cardiff, and not that we've seen anything play in terms of his how he's going to set up at Cardiff. But I think from the outside, it does look a little bit left field, and I don't necessarily have high hopes for Cardiff. But yeah, I think his young experience at Rochdale and coaching, I don't think will get you that far.
Well, we have to stick with you, Seb, because our next one is Conor Hourihane of Barnsley, of course. I'm sure rose-tinted glasses will be firmly on, and we'll stick him a few places up than me and Sam, but where have you got him?
Yeah, so I have, funny, so I did all my rankings and I forgot one manager. So that one manager sort of then just messed up my rest of my numbers. But it's ended up that Hourihane has gone in as number 3. So I think he's quite a young and up-and-coming manager. Slight bias here, I know. But
3?
Number 3, yeah. I think he's obviously well drilled. He obviously knows what he likes and knows what makes a successful manager. So I think I think there's plenty to be positive about. And yeah, he's at the start of a very long and successful managerial career in my eyes.
That's got. You know what? I'm going to clip this of me and Jamie laughing, and when Barnsley get in the playoffs, and then Seb could just have us both.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've got. Well, originally I put him 4th, and then I messed
up. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting it to be high, but not that high. I think this follows on from my theme of they haven't done it yet, so I can't put them very high because I've gone completely the opposite direction, and I've put him 22nd in that he's in that batch of the bottom of they might be, and I think Conor Hourihane will become a very good manager. And if that is at Barnsley or not, I don't know in this next season, but I think he will become a good manager. But at the minute, he's not there yet because he's only had those few games at the back end of the season. So it's hard to put him too much higher than that. Sam, are you splitting the difference?
No, I've gone 22nd as well. I didn't see enough towards the end of the season with Barnsley to make me think that... obviously, it wasn't his squad, to be fair to him. It wasn't his squad. I know my dad is the complete opposite and thinks Barnsley are going to be really good this year under Hourihane, and it thinks they'll be much more front-footed. But from what I've seen of Barnsley... it's very difficult, obviously, to rank him, but it's his first managerial job, so we don't know how good he is. But from what I saw towards the end of the season, I couldn't put him any higher, which is probably harsh, and it's a theme with these new managers. I'm similar to Jamie. But I do agree that in the future, I think Hourihane could be a good manager.
Yeah, I think it in some ways is the easiest way of doing it, is in putting these managers who haven't got the experience, putting them a bit further down. Because I think it's difficult to put them above someone who has, like our next one, Darren Ferguson, obviously at Peterborough, who has been there and done it. I guess I'll go first. This one, former Doncaster, did really well with us, and then obviously Peterborough's been his main port of call. 3 EFL trophies, 3 League One promotions, 2 League Two promotions to his name, and for all of that, I've put him second on my list.
Okay. That's quite interesting. That's, again, quite high, isn't it, I suppose? But
Mm.
I've put him... But he is a very, very strong League One manager, I suppose, isn't he? He's, like you say, won promotions, he's won trophies. I've put him 5th, but the top 6 were, for me, I think from 4th, 5th and 6th were extremely close. And he kind of just ended up in the middle, mainly because when he went into the Championship, I know that was with Peterborough, he struggled. But that's the only reason I've put him 5th. At League One, you'd do better. You'd do worse not to get many better managers than him. Let's put it that way.
Mm.
Yeah, I've gone slightly lower than you guys. I put him 9th, only because I think he's dropped off in the past couple of years. He doesn't really have... Yeah. Yes, he's a sort of a good League One
manager. They did have a very poor season.
Yeah, well, yeah, certainly, yes, he's just gone. But I think also, yes, he won the EFL Cup at Wembley, but I think actually the past couple of seasons, they've not really reached the heights of Peterborough. I don't think that we have seen previously under Ferguson. Yes, I know he's brought loads of success to the club as a whole, and obviously a successful dad as well, but I just don't think it's been there for the past couple of years in terms of Ferguson. I think... he's not the manager he once was. Obviously, factors beyond his control, but I think he doesn't quite have that success to prove the recent success to prove he's a good League One manager. If you asked me this a couple of years ago, he would have been higher up, but I think now, I put him in 9th place.
Yeah, no Conor Hourihane, is he? Darren Moore is next. Darren Moore of Port Vale, obviously former Sheffield Wednesday. I guess you're the club you're most associating with. This is he's a good manager, isn't he, Darren Moore?
Yeah.
And Sam, I'll let you go first on him.
I've put him quite high. I've put him 8th. I think the job he did at Sheffield Wednesday in exceptional circumstances was excellent. And obviously, we had one of the... It could be a little bit more tinted with the playoff drama that we actually had there. But when he's managing the Championship, he's been pretty solid. Going to Port Vale was kind of a point. It was destined for relegation anyway, the first time I think he went there. And he did the job that he was expected to do last season and get him promoted. I think he's a very solid League One manager. Tactically, I think he's very good. And I think he's a very good manager. So I've put him actually quite high. But I think he's a very, very decent manager for this level.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've gone for 10th for very, very similar reasons. In that sort of same bracket, very close to you. And yeah, I mean, he's a good manager. That playoff game, obviously, you mentioned against Peterborough, that incredible turnaround was I think the I guess a microcosm of that entire sort of spell he had there, and sort of the way he can galvanise a team, which he's very good at. So yeah, 10th for me.
Yeah, no surprise, slightly left field here. Gone 4th for Darren Moore. I think he's a really good manager. I think I'm very surprised. We discussed it at the time that sort of he went to Port Vale when he did. Obviously, spent the last season in League Two, got them promoted. First time of asking, and I think that sort of shows his qualities. The fact that he is able to, just over a year, go into the club, take the squad, and get them, promoted out of that division. I think he's very successful and had a really good spell at Sheffield Wednesday at this level. I think he's a good manager, and I think sort of any League One club would be very happy to have him. Just Port Vale are very lucky to have him, is what I would say. And I'm surprised he went there, but actually went in there, good job, and he's now at a level which I think more suits him, at a level that we sort of associate him being at.
So we'll stick with you then, Seb. On to Stockport now. Dave Challinor recently signed a new contract. Obviously got them into the playoffs last season. Where does he fall for you?
Yeah, so I'm a big Dave Challinor fan. I think that what he's done at Stockport sometimes goes under the radar, but actually I put Challinor as number 1 at the top. I think the success that he has season on season, not just at Stockport, but the other clubs he's been at as well. I think there's obviously a reason behind that, and I think he's a very hard-working manager that gets the best out of his players and, produces good results on the pitch. So he's Challinor number 1 for me.
Yeah. I don't have any complaints to that, but I put him 3rd. He's got a podium finish for exactly the same reasons. In his full seasons as manager, he's never finished lower than the playoff places. Obviously, he had that exception at Fylde where he got sacked halfway through the season when they were in the bottom 4. But tactically very good. He seems like a really down-to-earth bloke as well, which I think players will have more respect for people like that. He never throws his players under the bus. He always talks well. and tactically is very good. Like you look at Stockport and the rapid rise they've had. I think it was 9 years ago they were in the National League North, so it is a meteoric rise they've had. I love the way they play football. They've got a good fan base there, and Dave Challinor for third place for me.
Yeah, for all those same reasons from the both of you, and I'll attach onto that he was my manager of the season just gone. That I've put him first as well as Seb. That for all the amazing reasons both you gave, and with the addition of he was the best manager for me of last season, so it felt like I had to put him first this time around. But a very good manager, and another good manager who had an incredible season, incredible second half of the season, you'd say, in terms of Gary Bowyer at Burton, that great escape that he led and got there in the end with Burton staying in the division. This one, I think, was a bit more of a difficult one to rate. I'll kick it off because I think that might be a little bit high compared to the two of you, because I put Gary Bowyer 9th on my list.
Yeah, he's a lot lower for me, but that's purely because I couldn't decide where they were going to go. So he's 16th, which is sounds really harsh, but as I've said, it's in that bracket of it could easily be 12th. It's just whatever name I put in first is near enough where they've actually ended up. But he did an exceptional job at Burton since he went in. He's not one of them flashy names, if that makes sense. Like in terms of managers, everyone's going for these young, inexperienced coaches, but he's a well-respected name is Gary Bowyer. He's done a decent job everywhere he's been. And the job he did at Burton last year could have easily put him in contention for the manager of the season role. When he joined that club, they were like dead and buried. And the job he did was exceptional to even keep them up. So I put him 16th, but it could very easily be 12th or 11th.
No surprise. Slightly left field again. Slightly higher than the pair of you. I put him number 5 in my list. I think, I guess, because of the impact he had on Burton last season, but also I think he's a very well-rounded manager, a classic, I guess, British English manager that we don't really see much of in the modern era of football. Players gets the best out of the players, but builds a nice sort of rapport with them. I don't know. I've just always been admired. Obviously, was at Blackburn, Blackpool. I think was at Bradford as well. Sort of a couple of decent EFL clubs, and he's had relative success at them all. But particularly for the season last season, I think absolutely deserves all the credit for what he did at Burton Albion. So yeah, number 5, which might seem quite high, but that's me.
Another Gary next is Gary Caldwell at Exeter City. This one, I've gone... He sort of fell into that gap of I had the ones I wanted to put at the top. I had the ones I knew I wanted to put down the bottom. So he's gone in that middle bit, and I've put him 18th, which I feel is a bit harsh, but he sort of falls in that middle section for me. Not sort of pulled up any trees over recent seasons.
Yeah, I've got him in 15th. I think the last 2 seasons, while Exeter have started both seasons exceptionally well, they have fallen off. But last season they had a very good cut run as well. And I think to keep any fan-owned club in the world of multi-millionaires and clubs splashing millions of pounds on players, especially the past couple of seasons in League One, goes down to a very good job and ethos they have at Exeter City. And that usually comes from upstairs and the management team. So I've put him in 15th. To keep Exeter in League One, I think is and especially stable in League One, is a very good achievement.
Yeah, I guess just back onto that, I agree with everything that Sam has just said there. What I would say is, I don't know, it's just sort of a similar sort of thing to one of the managers mentioned earlier. Well, he's not necessarily overachieving, not necessarily underachieving. I think if you look at the where Exeter finished in the league the past couple of seasons, it's not necessarily, it's about where you'd expect them to be. He's not as sort of, though he's overachieving massively, but equally there never really seems to be in any real danger as such. And they might go on sort of bad runs, but they never seem that sort of cut adrift. So I've gone with Jamie as well. Gone with Caldwell in 18th in my manager rankings.
Next, we've got a run of new managers, 3 teams promoted into the division. That starts with Graham Alexander at Bradford City. This one, I feel like I said it earlier, and it wasn't true that I thought I'd put Gary Bowyer higher than everybody else, but I think I might be a little bit on the lower end for Graham Alexander. I put him 1 below Gary Caldwell in 19th. Obviously did very well to get Bradford promoted, but I've just never been sold on him as a manager. And I mean, it was a very good team that he got promoted with. But you have to be a good manager to get a team promoted. So there is no sort of shame in. He's obviously not a bad manager, but there are a lot better in the division. He's a little bit one-dimensional, is how I describe him in terms of in-game, and they're very difficult to change during games. His teams is how I look at it when I've watched his teams play. That there is maybe not that extra plan, or there's something different they can go to. So that's why he's gone 19th for me. Sam, you were nodding along to that.
Yeah, near enough agree. I'll put him 18th just purely because that was what's left. And I totally agree with all the. I don't have anything to add to what you've just said. I think he is a bit one-dimensional. And obviously Bradford got promoted in exceptional circumstances as well. So you could say it's a little bit of luck that has played his part, because I don't think Bradford would have gone on to win the playoffs had they fallen short. So yeah, I've put him 18th.
I have gone slightly higher than you two, but I guess not that much. I put him in 14th. I think we've seen him at quite a few clubs with quite a few relative success. I guess to bring Bradford up last season is, they did deserve to go up. And as Jim said, the squad that they had was deserving of promotion, but I guess it still takes a good manager to get a side up and out of the division. So yeah, 14th for me. He sort of sits in that middle range where we've not seen him in this in League One for a while, so not quite sure what to expect from him. But I sort of ranked him higher than some managers that I don't really rate as such. So yeah, it's sort of in that middle pack for me.
Grant McCann next, of course, Doncaster, a League One promotion winner, and most recently a League Two promotion winner, winning the title last season. I would expect that I've put him quite high, but I've gone for 6th for Grant McCann. He's proven in these promotions, and he's a very capable manager, and his teams are very good to watch. I don't know how much stock people put into those sort of metrics, but you always have fun watching a Grant McCann team. And I think he's a very good manager. And he's the sort of manager you'd want for us coming into the division, for Doncaster coming into the division. You want someone like a Grant McCann who's been there and done it and proven himself.
Yeah, I've gone quite a few off. I've gone Grant McCann 15th for me. A similar sort of thing to Alexander. Not been in League One for a couple of years, so not quite sure how he will fare. But has obviously had relative success with Doncaster over the past few years. Obviously promotion this time, but a couple of almost in the years prior to that. So yeah, sort of have been in Doncaster for a few years and managed to build up a decent side there. So yeah, and obviously and has had success at Peterborough as well beforehand. So he's a good manager. Just in that middle pack again for me, based on I've not actually seen that much of his clubs in recent years. So obviously don't want to rank it too high or too low. So just that middle pack for me.
Yeah, I've got him in the upper middle pack. He's in 11th for me. His time at Peterborough was pretty decent, to be honest. I've not seen too much since he went to Doncaster. Obviously, Jamie, you're better positioned to talk about Grant McCann. But yeah, they've done some good recruitment this summer. So that players obviously like playing for a Grant McCann team. And he's got someone like Luke Molyneux who are the best out of him. So yeah, I've put him 11th. I think he's got enough pedigree at League One to warrant that for me.
The final of our promoted teams is AFC Wimbledon, of course. Johnnie Jackson, their manager, former Charlton. So he's been around a bit, if you like, and he's got his team back into League One through, I think, a bit of a surprise playoff victory. There weren't anyone sort of pipping them for getting out of that playoff pack. But I've gone for 15th for Johnnie Jackson. Similar reasons that have been said in terms of McCann and Alexander by the Perriers, sort of in that middle of the road pack, and 15th for me.
Okay, I've got him 19th, which is quite harsh. But his time at Charlton didn't throw up trees for me. There were times last season where Wimbledon fans wanted him gone, especially the season before that as well. He's been there 2 or 3 years, so fair play to the Wimbledon board for actually keeping faith and trying to have some longevity with manager. But I've got him 19th.
Interesting. I have got him 11th. I don't know. I'm just quite a fan. I feel like he is one of those managers that actually more or less went straight from playing into managing, which I guess can be quite tough to transition. But he's not necessarily disappointed. I think I agree in terms of he's not necessarily over. Had great success anyway, other than after the Wembley victory pretty recently. But I think he's always been a pretty stable option. And still relatively young as well, still got lots to learn. And I think for a manager his age, he's actually been about a couple of clubs and had relative success at them all.
Kevin Nolan next at Northampton came in to post partway through last season. It was his first managerial job, of course, West Ham legend, you would describe him as. And my ranking for him comes based off that not been in management too long. He did okay with Northampton in terms of keeping them up, but his test comes for me next season. I've gone 20th for Kevin Nolan to see how he gets on next year, and that could be you could be pulling him down to 23rd, 24th, or you could be pushing him up into 10th, 11th. It depends how this next season goes.
Okay, I've got him 17th. I think he did a very good job to keep Northampton up. But it's kind of from the Sam Allardyce mould, isn't he? In terms of Route 1 football, play for second balls, physical sides. So it's a bit of an old school sort of Steve Evans typed manager. Like you say, it will be interesting to see how he gets on in a full season, because I think his last full season in management was Notts County when he got them into the playoffs. I remember when he was in charge of us and it was dreadful, like it was appalling. So I could have put him lower, but I think the respect and for him, what he's done at Northampton, he obviously went out of management to be a coach at West Ham, won a European trophy under David Moyes. So he's learned from a very experienced manager. And he does seem to have taken parts of that to Northampton with him. So I've put him 17th.
Yeah, I've gone with you, Jim, as well, and put him in 20th because I don't know. I think as sort of Sam has explained there a little bit, some of his managerial experiences have not been the most successful. I think actually his main success has come when he's been a coach at West Ham, obviously being part of Sam Allardyce and sort of playing under Sam Allardyce, but learning a lot from him and helping to coach under David Moyes pretty recently as well. So yeah, I think I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how he does this season, but I think he belongs more as a coach and as a manager. It might seem pretty low, but I'm not a massive fan as for him being a manager.
League One is next, coming into Huddersfield. Ipswich Town is where he's sort of learned his craft, if you like, being the assistant to Kieran McKenna as they've risen through the ranks. And this is his first managerial gig. It's a big vote of confidence, I think is the way you describe it for Huddersfield, giving him the job. For me, he falls in that category of he hasn't done it yet, so he's hard to put very high up the list. And for that, I've put him 21st. No other reason. I think he could prove to be a good manager, but time will tell on that one.
Yeah, I've put him 23rd just for the same reasons that the managers all above him have managed, which sounds terrible, but he's beaten a manager that has managed. So they'll be hoping that he follows the Kieran McKenna footsteps in terms of gets back-to-back promotions in his first managerial job. So there is a lot of pressure on him as well, regardless of his first managerial job. They've recruited so far incredibly well, so he's been backed. So there isn't any excuses from the off in terms of being inexperienced. He's got to hit the ground running.
Yeah, I'm just not sure on this one. I know he comes from that sort of Man United setup with the coaching staff. Kieran McKenna, we know that has great success with Ipswich. I'm not sure about this one. So I've actually put him 23rd, so second to bottom in my managerial rankings. I know we've not seen him sort of manage a game properly as such. He's been involved heavily on the coaching side at Ipswich and then sort of in the Man United fold as well, obviously not as an unofficial coach, if you like, as I don't know what it was, 4th, 5th or as goalkeeper, and it's been quite a bit of coaching from what we gather. So yeah, I'm really not sold on this one. I think Huddersfield it could actually prove to be a mastermind of an appointment, or it could backfire incredibly for Huddersfield. They went for the experience option, it didn't work. They've now gone for sort of the youth for an up and coming. And yeah, I don't know, interesting. I don't know how fair, but certainly for me, I'm just not sure about League One.
Matt Bloomfield is next. Of course, of Luton Town now. He was at Wycombe before moving on to Luton in the Championship. They did come down. Very obviously, we wouldn't be included in this ranking. But Sam, where have you put him? It's like the double-edged sword, isn't it? Obviously, he got Luton relegated. They already were in that batch, but he did so well with Wycombe, having him up the top of the table beforehand.
Yeah, I've put him 9th, which may sound really harsh, but I just think there's 8 better managers than him, to be honest. There's no other reason for it. I think he did a very good job at Wycombe, and you could tell by the way they kind of fell away. Their January, obviously, as we've mentioned many times, didn't help them. His first season at Wycombe was a struggle. I think that's fair to say, but he did get them to a trophy final. But ultimately, I think the squad he had at Luton when he went there a year ago was a Premier League squad. I personally think they should have stayed up with the squad and then the recruitment he had in January. So that's why I've put him 9th.
I've gone for 12th. I think obviously I had great success at Wycombe before I moved on, but I think he could have done better with Luton last year in terms of keeping them up in the Championship. I think he's a very good League One manager. This is probably more his level, so probably has a really good chance of succeeding. But yeah, last season I was just a bit disappointed given the way he jumped ship from Wycombe to go to Luton and didn't necessarily, I guess, do what they wanted him to do at Luton. So yeah, 12th is about midpoint, really good in terms of when he was at Wycombe, but then actually not the best spell at Luton. So midpoint for me.
I think the start of the season is big for Matt Bloomfield. Can he sort of turn that ship around very quickly and get them pushing in the right direction early on? As for now, I've put him 7th, which is the highest out of the three of us. But I think he did really well at Wycombe before he did move on to Luton. If that second half of the season, moving on at Kenilworth Road, didn't go to plan. Matt Hamshaw is next up, of course, of Rotherham United, coming in very towards the back end of the season and making that team look a lot better than they did beforehand under Steve Evans, and sort of very quickly turning a slight corner there. For me, I've put him 17th. He's another one that perhaps in a couple of years will be a little bit higher up, but for now, 17th for me. I think he shows more signs of building something than the managers I put below him at their respective teams.
Okay, I've got him 21st. I didn't. I'm going to be opposite. I didn't see a lot from Rotherham towards the end of the season. I think the squad they had already was a very, very strong League One squad. They just needed a bit of belief in them, to be honest. So yeah, that's why I've put him 21st. Again, I just haven't seen enough progression, and I think the squad was good enough to be higher up the table anyway. So again, it's a big start to the season for him.
I've gone 13th for Hamshaw. I guess has quite a bit of success with Paul Warner as the coach, and we saw some improvements last year when he I guess took over at Rotherham. Yeah, I'm a bit unsure. I know he's I guess 13th is quite middle ground because I think there is a manager in him. It's just his first proper appointment in terms of him being the number one dog. He's learned quite a bit under Warren. So yeah, middle ground for me. I don't think he will do awful because we've already seen signs of improvement, but I think there are better managers in the division. So 13th for me.
Yeah, so 17th there for me for Hampshire, and I'm going to boost up a couple of places for our next one. Is Michael Skubala next at Lincoln City. This one I found fairly difficult out of most of them, really, in that I've seen obviously quite a lot of Michael Skubala. I've watched a lot of them over the past couple of seasons, and he hasn't impressed me a lot this season just gone. His first, when he came in to replace Matt Kennedy, I was surprised how good he was. Of course, his first managerial job full time. He did a caretaker stint at Leeds in the Premier League, ran their under 21s, under 23s for a good while. But I was surprised how good they were in getting so close to the playoffs and playing a really attractive style of football. And then this season just gone, they seem to completely forget that style of football and go a lot more direct and a lot more, I don't know what the other word for it would be than direct, but that is sort of the sort of idea I'm going for. And that has made this more difficult for me in that he's sort of been pulled down for that. But I think he's a really nice guy. and not that really matters for this list. And he's got chance if he can re-implement those ideas from his first season. He has chance to go forward with them. I've gone for 12th as it is. I just found that it's a very conflicting thoughts going on, as I've just sort of uneloquently explained there.
Go on, Seb.
Maybe I've been a bit quite lenient on this one, based on, I guess, his first season in terms of how much he overachieved at Lincoln. So I put him as 8th. I think there is a good manager in him. I think at times this season, as you sort of explained there, Jamie, he's not really impressed. He's not really hit the heights that he set in that first season. I think there was so much anticipation ahead of the season just gone because of where they finished Lincoln in that first year under Skubala, and he obviously just didn't get there at all. But I think obviously injuries didn't help. I think I still think there's a good manager in there though, and Lincoln are good to have it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a bit, I'm quite a fan. But yeah, number 8 for me in the list.
Okay, I've gone for 14th. I think Lincoln last year were, as Jimmy mentioned, very inconsistent. They had spells where they were very good, and they had spells where they were very poor. He did go away from his back 5 to a back 4, so I'll give him credit for that. He did have injuries as well, which is fair. I do think he's been let down a little bit by recruitment. I think he wants players that are ready, i.e. James Collins, Sonny Bradley, who they've brought in. So I think next season's big for Skubala, personally, because that's what it can be his second full season at the club. And if we're looking back to his first season at the club, where they narrowly missed out on the playoffs, they need to have a good start. But I think this league's going to be extremely competitive this year. And like I've mentioned, he's in that bracket of he could easily be 10th, he could easily be 16th, and he just ended up in 14th.
Yeah, he's definitely in that sort of middle of the road pack. Someone who doesn't fall in that middle of the road pack for me is Mike Dodds at Wycombe, for the reason not that he's up at the top, but he's up down the very, very bottom. 23rd, I've gone for Mike Dodds. Obviously came in to Wycombe with a very big reputation as a good manager, so a good coach, and would be a good manager. And he's done abysmally in that second half of the season when he took charge of Wycombe, and they just dropped and dropped and dropped. And then, I mean, they made one of the worst playoff campaigns you've ever seen from a team. They didn't have a shot on target. I don't think it was the start in the second leg. No, it was the first leg, wasn't it? They didn't have a shot on target. But yeah, just absolutely abysmal at times. And yeah, will he last the full season? I don't think so, personally. 23rd for me.
No, I would agree. He's in 20th for me. I could have put him lower, to be honest. And in hindsight, I probably should have done. It was pretty short of embarrassing, I think, Wycombe in the playoffs. They didn't really ever put up a fight to Charlton. Like we said, the January probably doesn't help when you're buying so many players in with a new manager. But they've gone for this data-led approach, and towards the end of the season, it did let them down. He didn't do that well when he was at Sunderland managing the first team. They've taken a risk and put him into a team that were top or in top 2 when he joined, and they ended up finishing 5th in a 4-horse race. So, yeah, I don't really know what more I can say about Mike Dodds. It just doesn't work for me.
Sorry, Seb, go.
Yeah, no, I agreed with you both. I put him 22nd in my ranking. Yeah, I think good coach, obviously great track record at Sunderland, but even Sunderland fans are questioning when he first went to Wycombe in terms of why he would leave. First managerial opportunity. I just don't think he's a very good manager. I think he's a very good coach, but the position they were in position Wycombe were in when he first took over compared to the position where they finished the season, I think that probably just tells you what you need to know in terms of Mike Dodds and how good he is or not he is at being a manager.
At the opposite end of this sort of experience spectrum is Nigel Clough. He's the longest serving manager in the division, currently obviously at Mansfield Town. Former Burton, did a very good job there. He's a manager I really like. Obviously they go a bit more direct and they play the way they can. He relies on experience as well, and he's stuck with that team that got them promoted, and that has saw them in the end, I guess, going around the houses a little bit. they saw them very comfortably to safety after that incredible start to the season. I've gone 11th for Nigel Clough. I am very impressed by him as a manager sort of throughout his career, and in his last few years he's done really well with that Mansfield team. So 11th for me.
Yep, go on, Seb.
I put him as 10th, so not too far off you. I think, solid manager. Always, I guess, just does the basics right, really. Never looks out of place whenever he's managing a side. Obviously, so much success with Burton and Mansfield, obviously just coming up this time from League Two and actually surviving the season, never really looking in danger of being dragged into that relegation battle. There's some scary times, don't get me wrong, in terms of they went on such that big winless run, really, which is obviously was a concern, but he showed no sign of sort of being fazed by it at all. And I think, a classic English manager that the game loves to have as part of it. So, League One, I think, is his level. And, very, very good, experienced, solid option.
Yeah, I'm in the same realm. I put him 12th for all the reasons mentioned. I remember his time at, when he was at Burton as well. He obviously got them when they were in the Championship. He managed to keep them up for a second season, and that's some achievement to keep like a club like Burton in the Championship for 2 years. And he's done an exceptional job with Mansfield, to be honest, as well, because we all predicted them to go down last year. He's done an exceptional job. Obviously relies on experience, as you mentioned, Jamie. So, a solid League One manager.
That's one of the closest we've all got to each other, 11th, 10th, 12th.
Especially the established managers.
And Noel Hunt is next, obviously at Reading. Again, one of the newer managers, but had a very good spell with them last season. We all expected, me and Seb, especially in terms of doing our review shows, that we expected them to slip off quite dramatically after Ruben Sellers left. But they were so close to the playoffs, and only just in the end did Leyton Orient beat them to that final spot. So for me, he's proved himself in that short stint already that there is something in there in terms of being a good manager, and it's a big season, and I'm backing them. We'll obviously come to it later on, and if you subscribe and follow along, we will get to our sort of season predictions, previews as we get nearer to the first game of the season. They're one for me who I see being really high up the top, and Noel Hunt is a factor in that. I've put him 13th because I think there are sort of better managers in that division, but he is for me a very good manager.
Yeah, I've gone for exactly the same. 13th place. Exceptional job when Ruben Sellers left. Has developed continued his work with the youth team into the first team. Like you look at people like Tyler Binden, who came through his management and then obviously got a better move. They've got Andre Garcia, who's come through the youth team when Noel Hunt was managing. I think he's shown his marbles, so to speak, towards the end of the season, keeping them in that playoff hunt. I just personally think at this moment in time there are 12 better, more experienced managers than him, but that's not to say they can have an exceptional season next year.
Yeah, I'm just not sold on Noel Hunt entirely yet. If I'm being perfectly honest, I put him as 16th, so not obviously awfully, but it's still in that mid-table range, if you like. I don't know. I know he did a good job with Reading, and actually they only just missed out. But I'm just still not sold on him as a manager. I know he's been around the coaching team for quite a while, but I'm not really sure on him. Not for me, but sort of not one that is an awful option. I'm just a bit uncertain. So hence 16th.
He's the highest ranked of what I'd call the experienced manager, the sort of inexperienced managers for me. But he's all sort of in that mid-range for all of us. Richie Wellens is next. Leyton Orient, of course, got them to the playoffs. They play a final in the season just gone. I don't even think I need to ask Sam where he's put Richie Wellens. But I'll let you kick us off. Oh wow,
he's not first. He's second.
It surprises me.
Yeah, I think second's very fair. I think he's massively overachieved with a budget that is bottom half League One. Tactically, I think he's one of the best in the division. The way I could listen to the way he talks about football all day. He's obviously won 2 League Two titles. He's recently signed a 4th contract with the club in terms of another extension, which shows, I think, great loyalty because he could have very easily left this summer. Bristol City springs to mind in a club that would have been pretty perfect for him. I think he is ready for the Championship. Personally, I think that is his next step, and hopefully that's with us. I just personally think he's massively overachieved. Even in our first season in League One, we finished 10th. We've improved every season with him, and I think a third season at League One, who knows what could happen.
My complete honest opinion is that I left Wellens until one of the last, and it was just a case of gap filling without messing stuff up too much.
What that sounds like to me is that he's gone, I'll put him a bit lower. I'll come up with an excuse.
No. That's Wellens is one of the last names I put in. And I put him in 17th.
17th?
Yeah, 17th.
Do you want to swap him and Hourihane around?
No, I'm all right. I genuinely don't think that I've got a reasoning for this other than I just had one gap to fill, and Wellens was my last name, and I just put him in the gap without sort of messing up my other rankings too much. Well, so that is why I think he's actually quite a good manager. I don't know why he's 17.
We've gone for sort of stick the tail on the donkey there, and Seb's managed to put it on the donkey's face.
I think he's quite a good manager, but there was a gap at 17th, so I put him in 17th.
Well, believe it or not, I'm much closer to you, Sam. I put him third. Richie Wellens. My first and second already gone in that Ferguson and Dave Challinor early on, but third for me, very good. He was the only bit I'd add to what you said, Sam, was when he was at Doncaster. We probably underachieved. Well, he underachieved, but he had no backing at all and was in a really difficult situation. And it just shows when you put people in the right environment how well they can do. And him sticking with Leyton Orient sticking with him, it really shows how well things can go.
And I think it also shows his development of young players as well. Like you look at our squad, it's one of the lowest average ages in the league, other than Peterborough, I think. So his development, particularly of someone like Ethan Galbraith, who came in and was quite a raw talent, and now he's one of the best, if not the best player in League One.
Yeah, definitely. Ryan Lowe is next of Wigan. For me, he's another one really high up. 2-time League Two promotion out of League Two winner. I've gone for fourth for Ryan Lowe. I think they're in for a very good season, though I did say that last season, and that came back to bite me slightly. But we've been saying all along they can add a couple of attackers. They'll be right up there, and they've got the manager for the job. Made them very hard to beat, and he's tactically a very sound manager. Ryan Lowe, fourth for me.
I put him as number. I can't even remember mine. Probably number two. Ryan Lowe. I think the success he's had in this division before, we'll forget about sort of managerial experiences in divisions higher. But I think if we look at him as a League One manager, I think he's up there with one of the best around. I think the success he obviously had with Plymouth, and we already saw quite a bit of improvement at Wigan towards the latter end of the season, and he can definitely use that going forward. Wigan, it's an absolute steal, I think, that they've got Ryan Lowe in, and I think he's a very, very good option at this level.
Yeah, and for that reason, he's my top pick. I just look at Preston and the way they completely capitulated towards this after he left. That he got them close to the playoffs in his, I think, 2 years. He left and they nearly got relegated. Obviously did an exceptional job at Plymouth as well at this level, and Bury in League Two. I personally think he is the best manager in League One. Wigan was so difficult to play against at the end of last season, and that's how you build a successful team. You build from a solid base. He's obviously already added forwards this summer, so I agree. I think they might be quite good this season.
Steve Bruce of Blackpool is next. I think this could be a little bit of a room splitter, not just for the three of us, but in terms of the people watching and listening along as well. In that, obviously, he's a former Premier League manager. He's obviously a good manager because to manage even poorly in the Premier League, you have to be a very good manager just to get there in the first place and be able to hang tactically with those managers up there. So I feel a bit harsh in putting him 8th. But I just kept finding managers who I thought, well, they're better out of their sort of recent seasons and so on. And perhaps he underachieved a little bit with Blackpool in the end last season, and they should have been in the playoffs. So next season, they're a candidate for that for me. But 8th, and I don't know how I feel about putting him 8th because I think he probably should be higher given that he's an ex-Premier League manager. But yeah, 8th for me.
Yeah, I'll put him 7th. I think he's a manager that comes in with this, I'm going to use this in inverted commas, dinosaur reputation. I think his football is a little bit outdated, but you can't deny that when he came into Blackpool, they were a lot better towards the end, like the middle part and towards the end. They're a very difficult side to be beaten as well. They probably should have been closer to the playoffs than they actually ended up being. But like you see his Paul this summer, 2 of the best centre-halves in League One now they've got as a partnership. So he has got Paul, the name Steve Bruce, like Man United legend, Premier League manager. So he's obviously got that pull, numerous promotions from the Championship. So he is a top manager. But I think he's one of them managers that is declining, so to speak, rather than being a modern day sort of manager.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I put him 6th in my rankings. I think he's a very good option. I'd take that in terms of perhaps his old style philosophy is sort of being outdone by the new modern upcoming coaches. But I think he still gets results. He still gets best out of players, and I think especially at this level, it's a very good option. And yeah, as Sam said, actually, probably should have got closer to the playoff positions with Blackpool last year. But yeah, I think this season, a full season from the off at Blackpool, I think could be quite interesting.
Just 2 to go. Steven Schumacher is next. Obviously, if Bolton came in, there was a massive new manager bounce when he came into the club, though that dwindled and nowhere near the playoffs they were in the end. This one I found quite difficult because on paper he's a very good manager, has won the league before, but his sort of most recent spell at Bolton hasn't quite hit the heights. So I think at the end of next season he could be a few spots lower down or not in this list entirely because he'll be promoted. So for me, I've put him 5th in that sort of interchangeable gap just below my top 2 or 3. It's a big season. I've said that a few times for certain managers, but I wasn't quite sold on him in those past few months at Bolton. But there is definitely, he's proven that there is a good manager in there with him.
Yeah,
go on, Seb. No, go on, mate.
I at first I thought I put Schumacher and Lowe really close together, but then I actually thought about it, and I think Lowe has done more than Schumacher. So Schumacher is in 7th for me. Obviously, Ryan Lowe, as we discussed, is in second in my rankings. But yeah, Schumacher in 7th. I think he's a very good option. Obviously, learned a lot from Ryan Lowe working together. And yeah, had this new man's bounce in a Bolton, but I still think it's a very, very solid option at this level. Obviously, not quite as good as Lowe, but because they worked together for quite a period of time and learn off each other. But nevertheless, decent option. Did really well at Plymouth as well, and yeah, for Bolton to have him, I think it's a really good coup.
Yeah, I've got him in 4th, which you could swap him and Darren Ferguson around, to be honest. I think it is a big season for him in terms of how they ended the last season was extremely disappointing. They should have been in the top 4, in my opinion, last season. They've obviously sold Aaron Collins, who arguably was their best player last season. So it's a complete turnover. So he's got to have a good start to the season. He didn't, like a lot of managers, didn't do much at Stoke, to be honest. And the first opportunity he got to leave at Plymouth, he did. So yeah, that's why I've got him in 4th.
Yeah, you said you need to. There you go. Tom Cleverley is our last one for Plymouth. Obviously, former Watford manager coming in most recently, just a couple of weeks ago for this new season. This one again was one of those little bit of a difficult one for me, and out of what I'm calling the inexperienced managers. Obviously, he had that spell at Watford, but he's not had a long and lasting managerial career yet. Like a lot of these managers in the division, he's just below Noel Hunt for me. I've put him 14th, Tom Cleverley, which I don't know how well that's going to go down with certain sort of corners, but I think he's very highly rated, and I think he will become a very good manager. But as yet, he's not been there and done it, has he? So you can't put him above managers who have, and there are plenty of those in the division. So yeah, 14th to round off my list.
Okay, I've got him in 6th. I think that Watford job is extreme. While I think he got it because he's sort of a legend sort of there. I think the job he did, especially in the first half of the season, was exceptional. And then when there were rumours around that he'd been sacked, they obviously fell off. And then the owner had to come out and say, no, he hasn't been sacked, only for him to get sacked at the end of the season. It's a very Watford thing. And I think he did a very good job in very difficult circumstances. It is obviously a very weird, probably a weird move to put above people like Steve Bruce, Bloomfield, McCann. But I think it's a very good appointment for Plymouth. And I saw enough in his time at Watford, especially in the first 6 months, to think that he's going to be a very good manager.
See, I am the opposite of that in that, yes, he started well at Watford last season, but actually the dip-off was pretty bad in terms of they were in a prime spot for a playoff position, but actually missed out on it by quite a substantial amount. So I put Cleverley 19th. I'm just not sure on the Plymouth appointment. Plymouth have got it wrong quite a few times before, and I think this could fall under that category in that, good manager, just wrong club and doesn't quite fit the mould. I guess like we saw at Wayne Rooney, big name. I guess Cleverley not as big a name, but even still, he's just a good coach, a good manager, but just not quite the right fit for me anyway. I know he had relative success at Watford, but yeah, it's the fall off towards the back end of last season. For me, I just don't think it's the right fit at Plymouth this season.
Well, that rounds us to the end now of our League One manager ranking. I'm sure we've upset a few along the way, perhaps made a few laugh as well with some of our selections. So thanks for everyone for watching, for listening, wherever you have been following along. Callum will be here for the weekly transfer update this week, and then throughout this off-season as we head into pre-season as well. We'll all be here with more of those transfer updates and more bonus episodes along the way before it's full steam ahead for the next League One season. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next time here on the League One Lowdown.